Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Masaki from State 43, and today we're going to talk about Survival of the Fittest or SVS Prep. It's honestly the same event, and sometimes it's also the special stage events, like the recent one we had was the Summer Games. Basically, I'm just going to show you how I, in general, prep for this event and how I kind of maximize my points and what I do, especially since I'm not a pay player. I do spend a little bit in the game, but I don't spend that much in this game compared to a lot of, like, I guess, my peers. But I still can usually rank pretty high within the game. So I want to show you how to do that. So to get started, let's kind of talk about what the event looks like. For example, currently my state's going through SVS. So you're going to have something called prep stage. Basically, it's about 5 days of survival of the fittest type of event, right? And you can earn points, you earn rewards based on how many points you score. A lot of this type of events is the same. Now, the first thing you want to know is that basically to earn more points, you're going to have to do and hit point targets and basically do activities that give you point for each day. So as an example here, I do believe all the SVS, by the way, they work exactly the same. Obviously, game always changes them depending on maybe what events are going on, depending on, for example, like if something new has happened in the game. For example, if they're adding in new items, new base things, it will change the schedule. But overall, the way you prepare for it would still stay the same. So let's get started. In this case, you can, if you ever want to know what's kind of coming up, because every day you can click like somewhere here and it show you how to like earn points based on what's available today, right? But if you ever want to know what's coming up because you want to plan, you do want to go here. So usually around the rules or somewhere top here, they'll show you the rest of the week. Okay, so the first thing is you can see every day you have different events that give you different points, right? One of the challenges you have is, well, sometimes like things like, for example, badges appear on multiple days, right? So how do you know which day you should be using badges versus using hero gear design, especially if you don't have enough of those items? For example, if you dump all of your items on day 1, you might not even make the point targets for day 4, for example. So how do you balance this stuff out? How do you make sure, for example, if your goal is to meet the minimum, so you want to just hit this point target of 350k, or if your goal is to kind of like score or rank pretty high every day and then at the end get a nice score overall ranking for the stage or for the event, that's the type of thing that you will really want to kind of think through, right? And that's where the planning comes in. So I'll kind of show you how that works. So as an example, this is the list of things that you'd be doing. This is really hard to kind of keep track of in the game. So what I always do is I either do this on paper. Normally I just do this on my whiteboard, but sometimes I also put it into an Excel spreadsheet like this. So I'll just show you this, right? So what I do here is pretty straightforward. I mark out the different days. So day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and then the different type of like, events that are going to happen that day. I usually put a separation between things that are kind of like general, like these, versus like the things that are going to happen one time ever, right? So as an example, there's going to be an infected event, but that's only going to happen on day 4. So as in, just kind of understanding is you should be doing the infected event on day 4, right? Because that's the day that you're going to be only day where this event matters. And so of course you should be dumping that, which then would make free up, for example, like maybe hero gear can be shifted to another day if you're going to score all of your points with infected that day, right? And then the other thing that really matters, and this is more variable depending on your state, is your state buffs. So communicate with your governor, but they're going to provide to you a schedule for when they're going to do their buffs. For example, maybe the governor clicks the building buff day 1, right? Or in our case, it's going to be day 5. So this is actually throwing my schedule off a little bit because normally we get the buffs on day 1. But because the governor kind of like we're entering Plasma 6, 7, 8 now, there's a new event going on. So we are going to try to get everybody to get their plasma ready to then use on day 5 when the event actually opens, and we can start using that new plasma to kind of advance our plasma 5s up to 8. So that's why it's shifted this week, but normally it would be on day 1. So these buffs also would affect how you kind of play the week. Usually the governor is smart enough to line these up with like the buffs that make sense for that day, but obviously it could change or shift depending. So here's how you plan for something like this, right? you list out all the different types of events or different type of like buffs that could be active that day. And then you check off like what you're going to be probably be doing that day. The way I always go by is you go through the list and say, for example, day 4 is all infected, right? And on day 4, you have other options. Like, for example, you might do hero gear or you might do badges. Now, because day 4 is all infected, you can then think, okay, well, I might not need to do badges. So badges becomes either red, like you're not going to do it, or orange, which is something you do to kind of meet a point goal, right? So then what happens here is that you might basically say, okay, well, I'm not going to do badges that day. So then badges maybe move over to day 1 or day 3. Now, you look at day 3 and you say, well, day 3 is going to be mostly troop training because that's when the buff's going to happen. And that's when the only day that troop training actually happens. So maybe I don't do badges on day 3, and then that makes it so that badges happen on day 1. In fact, I mean, this process, if you ever played Sudoku, this is very similar to Sudoku, how you would play that game. So that's the kind of shifting you might do across different days. And because, I just realized building day 1 doesn't have the building buffs. So I'm actually going to make building buffs orange, meaning I'm going to use it just to meet point goals if my badges don't hit the goals for me. And then really focus on doing the buildings on day 5 when the building buff is active, which then coincides with me spending my plasma as well for that upgrade. And so this is kind of like how you start planning things out, right? You look at hero gear and there's only 2 days. So if I'm doing plasma stuff on Friday and building buffs, I really can do the hero gear on Thursday. Now, even though that kind of coincides with the infected events, it probably just boosts my score a little bit more, right? But that building buff on Friday really then speeds things up for me. And then depending on how you adjust things on the top side, you then start adjusting things on the bottom side for your actual plans for that day. For example, I'm no longer doing badges on day 4. I remove badges from my event of things to do on day 4 and then add that up to, for example, day 1 here. And then plasma is really, for day 1 at least, really just a way to fill for hitting a point target. Okay, so day 2 and day 3 are really focused on the raise event. And so this is where, because the raise events happen on those 2 days only, that's where you want to be focusing your actual spend for raise spins on those days. Now, the raise event does last 3 days total, but because the points only count for day 2 and day 3, not day 4, you really should be spinning all of the majority of your raise for whatever point target you're hitting on day 2 and 3. And because raise happens on day 2 and day 3 in this case, a lot of people do focus raise on day 2, get most of the spins done. And day 3 is really just more focused on troop training anyways. And then that way you can start actually spending all of your fragments, hero fragments on day 3. And that kind of lines up as well. So again, a lot of this is up to you to adjust. So it's kind of open-ended as well. Which then basically the only difference is because in my state we also have gathering on day 2, and gathering usually I can earn so many points, so maybe I'll just really go crazy on day 2 and win, kind of, right? So I'll do research, raise, and gather. So change this up to raise, gathering, and I will do research, right? So kind of just take this off here and then put research as my third. Now, really cool thing you can do combo wise, because day 3 is my troop training day, right? And troop training counts the moment the troop is like, you click on the troop and you like make them like join your army, if you will. That's when troop training really counts. So what you can essentially do is on day 2, right, while there's speed up, that's a bonus, use the speed up to speed up the troops so that right when day 3 reset happens, you can draw them out, right? You can collect the troops and earn points. That's actually a little trick that I always use. That way the speed ups aren't wasted for day 2. And then you also get the troop training points for day 3. Because day 3, you're going to be using a lot of speed ups. The speed ups won't give you any points because there's no point target for speed ups on day 3. But you'll get the points for training the troops. So, and you should be doing that anyways. Now, again, because the way that this is going to work out, fragments are going to be probably on day 3 as well. So that's the day I actually then advance my heroes, right? So I collect all the fragments on day 2 through the raise event, but I don't click them until day 3, unless I need it for a point target. But honestly, I think I won't really need it for this event at all. So I'm gonna mark it red and just not do them. Okay. And basically you can kind of work this out, and then you now have a plan for the whole week of what to do, right? So for example, I'm not doing badges on that day. I'll do hero gear, and I think I'm just gonna pump all the hero gear here, which then means I'm not going to do hero gear. I'm going to do chief gear, right? Yep, because that's the only day for chief gear. And then I'll do building speed up, right? So it's going to be like this, and then I'm going to do my plasma upgrades, building upgrades on this day. Okay, cool. So that's kind of how you kind of think about doing the events. Now, of course, if you're, because we're doing research, technically you can do plasma that day as well, because some of the research, if you're doing it from the plasma research facility, you're going to be consuming plasma as well. So you can do your plasma upgrades on day 2 as well. Again, most of this will change if your state operates the buff differently. If you for example, have different plans, if the event's different, right? So what I'm showing you is a general planning. Obviously for SOTF, it's going to be different. For SVS, it's going to be different. For the special events like Summer Games, it's going to be different. So, but in general, this is how you should think about it. And if you do this, you will maximize your points. And honestly, even as a free-to-play player, you're going to be able to save up a lot of resources, right? And then spend them on this event and actually rank really high. So that's pretty much my guide. A couple tips to close it off for you. And I'll just hop over back and show you. Basically, given that all of these things I've shown you have some sort of reward, I almost never spend anything in the game unless it's kind of like a double. For example, I don't upgrade my buildings because I have the plasma for it, right? So just because, for example, right now I have plasma to do my building upgrades or whatever, I don't actually do it until there's also a secondary reward for it. For example, SOTF or Alliance Throwdown or something like that, where I can also get points for some other event. Then I spend those resources, especially because this is especially important because if you plan to be free to play or close to it, you won't have so many resources to throw around. And that does include your speed ups, right? Which I basically save until events like this. That includes your upgrades. That includes, honestly, your resources as well. So if you need resources to upgrade or, biocaps, then use them only during the events. You don't have to use them elsewhere. I mean, again, I use biocaps elsewhere as well, but I don't use them in mass. So as an example, right, and this has nothing to do with SVS, but the value vouchers. So a lot of people use the 1,500, 15,000 biocaps here. What I usually do for the weeks with Alliance Throwdown, I wait for day 2 because there's an Alliance Throwdown item for 15k biocap spend. So you grab that event, you then buy this, and then you got the event done, and you got your vouchers to then buy whatever hero frag you need, right? When you collect hero fragments, don't use them right away. Save them up. So here's what I do, right? So a lot of my heroes, I mean, this is going to be a nightmare for a lot of people, I guess, but this is the right way to do it, honestly, is you save these hero frags and only use them during events where you'll be dumping the hero frags in to then, right, score higher for the event. Now, that way, in general, you're going to do better. You're going to have to score better. And then because you're scoring better for events, you're going to get more rewards, more frags, more biocaps, more speed ups, etc. So it's kind of a win-win in every single way. So I would highly recommend that. Overall, just kind of plan ahead of time, right? So plan ahead of time, try to figure out which day you're going to be doing what type of event or point goals. That's highly something I would recommend. The other thing is, if you're free to play or don't spend too much in the game, think about skipping some of these events. And when I say skip, I just mean hit the point goals, right? So as an example, maybe if you're low on speed ups because you spend them all last event, like I did for the Summer Games, I spent quite a bit to be able to try to go for the skin, the HQ skin. So what you should do then is you look at these event goals. Maybe all you do is just hit 350, right? You don't have to go crazy. Maybe you don't go 3 million, and that might be enough. So sometimes it helps to just hit the minimums, right? Hit the minimums, get the rewards, and then save those rewards up for the next SOTF. And then you're going to do just better. Then that's the event that you start actually dumping your resources into, right? And score higher or rank higher. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what else other tips I can give you. But if you follow this and you kind of build this map out for yourself every single round, you're just going to have a much easier time figuring out what tasks you do. Oh, that's right. Make sure as you build this thing, you don't have repeat tasks. Obviously, the whole point of building something like this is so that you don't have like, I'm doing chief badges on day 1 and also day 5, right? So you're going to dump all the chief badges day 1. And you don't really mean to, unless there's, to fill points or like, or if you're trying to like just hit a point target, you don't usually use the stuff that's marked in orange or red. So red is definitely no, basically, for that day because you're using it for a different day, and the orange is only when I need to hit a point target, which is usually pretty rare nowadays because I can collect enough rewards in between events to then power and fuel my next event. Yeah. All right, that's it for SOTF and how to master SOTF and get the highest points possible. This is Masaki from State 43. You stay classy.